Hey, it's another edition of Coffee with the Goose. Yes, I'm the Goose, and I'm so glad you joined me for another show. You know, we talk about things that are interesting, fascinating, and irritating, and this is definitely interesting. The great Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. fight set to take place in about 3 weeks in Las Vegas. We're very excited. Before we go any further, though, let's have a sip of our, I can't even speak, so I need my caffeine. My coffee, as you know, very strong, like my opinion. Got some creamer in there to make it oh so sweet, just like me. Now we're set. All right, big battle, several belts on the line in Las Vegas on August 21st. It'll be at the T-Mobile Arena. Manny Pacquiao, the champion in recess for the WBA, going against the undefeated warrior out of the Dallas, Texas area, Errol Spence Jr. He is the WBC and IBF welterweight championship champion of the world. It's going to be a great battle, and nobody knows what's going to happen. We've all made predictions. I have not made a prediction yet. That's coming. But we're kind of leaning towards one fighter, and that is Pacquiao. But again, no predictions yet. The gist of this show will be the size difference between Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. Pacquiao, now all of these stats are according to Boxing Rec, which is the great source of information for all past fights and all the information for all the fighters. So we're going to go with that. Pacquiao listed as 5 foot 5.5 inches tall. Again, a welterweight and one of the all-time greats. He's won titles in 8 different weight divisions, and including the welterweight division, which he holds a belt now. He has held the championships in 4 different decades. He's the oldest man to win a welterweight title. He is 42 years old, and he's showing no signs of letting up. His last fight was 2 years ago against Keith Thurman, where he won the belt from another undefeated champion in his prime, and that was a great fight. Thurman, of course, gave it his all, and it was a close fight, even with the knockdown in the first round. Spence, on the other hand, a force to be reckoned with. He's unbeaten, 27-0 with 21 KOs, and his last fight was against Danny Garcia. Now, Spence, even though he has 21 KOs, his last 3 fights were not knockouts. They were all decision fights, not knockouts, against Mikey Garcia, and let's see who else. Sean Porter, a war that showed what a warrior, what a stud Errol Spence Jr. really is, and then the decision over Danny Garcia. So anyhow, we're going to talk about the size difference this show and how Manny Pacquiao has fared against fighters who are taller than him. Now, in this case, we're going to just limit that to fighters who are 3 inches taller than Manny Pacquiao. In this case, Spence is 3 inches taller. He's actually 4 inches taller. He's 5'9.5", as Pacquiao is 5'5.5". So a lot of people initially said, well, Spence is too big, he's too strong, he's too young, blah, 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 blah. Well, we'll see. But if you look at past performances by Pacquiao, that tends to work in his favor. I have 6 fights, the only 6 I can find, in which a fighter 3 inches taller than Pacquiao got into the ring with him. So let's start with the first one, and I'll admit this is the first fight of Pacquiao I saw live, and that was in 2008, and that was really a coming out party, if you will. Even though Pacquiao had already won several world championships in several different divisions, this was his real coming out party in the United States, and he was fighting a Hall of Famer for sure, Oscar De La Hoya. Now, De La Hoya, say what you want about the weight differences. Oh, he was drained. Well, he was the one calling all the shots. So if he was, even he wasn't really trained, Pacquiao had to come up more in weight than De La Hoya had to come down in weight. De La Hoya, 5'11", so much bigger than Pacquiao heading into that fight. And a lot of people, even in Pacquiao's camp, are saying, Manny, what are you doing? This guy's going to destroy you. He's much too big. He's much too strong, much more accomplished, a multi-division Hall of Fame championship fighter. And what happened? Well, we saw what happened. Pacquiao schooled him and beat him up. And even though he didn't knock him down, he beat him up badly and made him quit on the stool after the 8th round. And there you have it, the legend in the making with Manny Pacquiao. And Oscar De La Hoya retired after that fight. And now I think he's going to fight again, actually, against, I can't remember the guy's name, but a lot of respect goes out to Oscar De La Hoya, great champion. But there's your first example of Pacquiao fighting somebody who is 3 inches taller than him. In this case, it was 4.5 inches. Actually, let me do the math, 5.5 inches taller. So there you have it. The second example was just 2 years later. And this is the fight people like to, it comes as close as we can for style and for size, and that's the Antonio Margarito battle. I believe that was in Dallas, and Margarito, a monster. And, you know, say what you want about the incident with the hand wrapping. Yeah, he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. But he's, again, another championship fighter. Take nothing away from Antonio Margarito. In this case, he was 5'11" as well, so much, much taller than Pacquiao. And this fight was for the WBC World Welterweight title. And again, it was welcome to class, Mr. Margarito. Pacquiao beat him up and broke an orbital bone in one of his eyes. Now, Margarito didn't go down because he's a strong, proud Mexican warrior more than anything. What do they call him? The Tijuana Tornado. But you beat Margarito, your man. And Pacquiao did just that. He actually was begging the referee to stop the bout in the later rounds. He let up. But there again, Pacquiao fighting a boxer, a world championship boxer, much, much taller than him and much heavier than him as well, the day after the weigh-in. And it was easy pickings for Manny Pacquiao. The third example of Pacquiao taking on a fighter bigger than him was Shane Mosley. That was a year later in 2011. Now, here was an example of a great technical welterweight boxer and a knockout artist in Shane Mosley. He was 5'8.5", so 3 inches taller than Pacquiao. Pacquiao knocked him down. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd round. And after that, Mosley was on his horse, just trying to survive. And I think they scored a knockdown for Mosley late in the fight where it was Pacquiao tripped over his feet. And Pacquiao got one of the few examples where I saw Pacquiao just lose his mind. He got so mad at the referee that he chased and beat on Mosley even more and ended up winning a decision and a WBO welterweight championship. Again, a reminder, this edition of Coffee with the Goose, we're going through the examples because Pacquiao's going to fight a much bigger fighter in Errol Spence Jr. We're going through the examples of Pacquiao fighting taller fighters. In this case, boxers who are 3 inches or more taller than Manny Pacquiao. So we've listed 3 of them. All were easy wins for Pacquiao. Oscar De La Hoya, Antonio Margarito, and Shane Mosley. The 4th example came in 2014. Now, I know Chris Mosley really had no business being in the ring with Pacquiao, but Algieri was undefeated, so take nothing against him, and he was a champion. So Pacquiao, once again, fighting somebody 5'11", 5 inches taller, 5.5 inches taller than he was, and it was a beatdown. Again, it was not a knockout, but Pacquiao knocked him down 6 times, including one that was vicious knockdown. I was surprised Algieri actually got up from that one, but he finished on his feet, but it was a loss. Pacquiao retaining his world welterweight championship for the WBO. The 5th example of Pacquiao fighting a bigger fighter, again, 5'11", this is in 2016, Jesse Vargas. Vargas at that time only had 1 loss on his record, and another fighter of Mexican origin who was a very, very skilled, very confident fighter. I like Jesse Vargas. And here again, 2nd round, down Vargas went. He was shocked. But those of us who have seen Pacquiao fight over the years were not shocked. He ended up beating Vargas, and the really impressive part of that win for Pacquiao was the championship rounds, the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds. He really took it to Vargas and won, going away keeping his WBO World Welterweight title. Okay, so you're 5-0. So how about the sixth example, the sixth and final example of Pacquiao fighting somebody 3 inches taller than him? This is just a couple of years ago, and this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And anybody who's honest and likes to see a fair fight, boxing that is, it was just horrible. This is the only time I've watched one of Pacquiao's fights while I was in the Philippines. Okay, and I watched it by myself, and it was a horrible, horrible experience. It was corruption at its worst, as Pacquiao went to Australia and took on Jeff Horn, another undefeated fighter, by the way. And it was elbows and holding and forearms to the chin, and it was wicked in the way that the referee just didn't do his job, just did not make any attempt whatsoever to stop Jeff Horn from doing this stuff. More power to Jeff Horn. Hey, he's doing what he had to do. That was the only way he was going to win, was by bullying. And I can't even call it bullying because he didn't win. But here, it was robbery. And anybody who watches the fight, unless you got a screw loose upstairs, some of us do, Pacquiao won that fight. Okay, so in my book, he's 6-0 against fighters who are 3 inches taller than him. But okay, I'll be honest, 5-1. Jeff Horn got the victory. But just to give you an example of how awful the decision was, the referee, even though he didn't do his job, the referee does not score the fight. Okay, it was the 3 judges. But the referee, after the 9th round in which Pacquiao just smoked this guy, came to Jeff Horn's corner, and I'm going to give you the direct quote. Jeff, are you okay? I think you've had enough. Show me something this round or I'm going to stop the fight. That's how bad it was. The referee was going to stop the fight. That's how bad Pacquiao was beating this guy. But yet, okay, Cooper, I know you're mad too. But, Pacquiao, in the end, here's the moral of the story. If you're bigger than Pacquiao, you don't have an advantage. Quite the contrary. Pacquiao, with his awkward and very intelligent footwork and quick footwork, is going to use that to his advantage. He's very unusual techniques that Pacquiao uses with his feet, especially against bigger fighters, and he's going to use that against you. Will that happen against Errol Spence Jr. here in a few weeks? I don't know. It might. And our next show, we're going to talk about the game plan. Pacquiao has already, Freddie Roach's trainer, has already pretty much said what the game plan is going to be. It's going to be a lot like the Antonio Margarito fight. But let's not forget, the footwork is the key. And even if Pacquiao is lacking in or doesn't take advantage of his superior footwork, he can still duke it out with you. And as a matter of fact, anybody who thinks they're going to get inside and just trade blows with Pacquiao, good luck to you, brother. There are many examples I can give. The most prominent is the Miguel Cotto fight. It did not work well. And the Ricky Hatton fight is another example. Pacquiao's a warrior, let's not forget. And if you're a big guy, like all these great, many of them Hall of Fame fighters can attest to, their size did not give them any sort of a advantage over Pacquiao. Quite the contrary, Pacquiao used his diminutive state and his strength, his leverage that comes with him being a shorter fighter, used it to his advantage and beat all these guys badly, including the guy he allegedly lost to. So there you have it. I want to hear what you guys have to say, and you ladies. We have, I don't claim to be the greatest boxing mind in the world, although I've been watching boxing for 50 years now. I've seen all the great fighters, and, I rate a lot. I know who's good and who ain't, And one thing I will say with confidence, I have the smartest group of listeners and viewers, that is, of any YouTube channel, especially when it comes to boxing. You guys are the creme de la creme. You guys are very, very smart, and I've learned a lot just reading your comments and even arguing with a couple of you guys. I appreciate it. Anyhow, that's it for this edition of Coffee with a Goose. Many thanks you guys for watching. Many more great shows to come, and that the number of subscribers keeps on growing. I'm still amazed and humbled by all of you guys who not only watch the show, but who subscribe. And don't forget, the big fight between Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. is coming up very shortly. We will be there to watch the fight and cover it and do lots of interviews. So stick with us. Coffee with the Goose for great boxing news, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care.